We first became aware of him in May of 2013. He was working as a contract security guard at a local courthouse, and he made some statements that were inflammatory and contradictory that concerned his coworkers about terrorism. First, he claimed family connections to Al-Qaeda. He also said that he was a member of Hezbollah, which is a Shia terrorist organization that is a bitter enemy of the so-called Islamic State, ISIL. He said he hoped that law enforcement would raid his apartment and assault his wife and child so that he could martyr himself. When this was reported to us, the FBI's Miami office opened a preliminary investigation. And over the next 10 months, we attempted to determine whether he was possibly a terrorist, something we do in hundreds and hundreds of cases all across the country. Our investigation involved introducing confidential sources to him, recording conversations with him, following him, reviewing transactional records from his communications, and searching all government holdings for any possible connections, any possible derogatory information. We then interviewed him twice. He admitted making the statements that his coworkers reported, but explained that he did it in anger because he thought his coworkers were discriminating against him and teasing him because he was Muslim. After 10 months of investigation, we closed the preliminary investigation. 2 months later, in July of 2014, the killer's name surfaced again in an indirect way. Our Miami office was investigating the Florida man who had blown himself up for the Nusra Front in Syria. Again, the Nusra Front being an Al-Qaeda group in conflict with ISIL. And we learned from the investigation that the killer knew him casually from attending the same mosque in that area of Florida. But our investigation turned up no ties of any consequence between the two of them. In the course of that investigation, one witness told us, when asked, do you know anybody else who might be radicalizing, that he had once been concerned about the killer because the killer had mentioned Alaki videos. But the witness had concluded that he later got married and had a child and got a job as a security guard, and so he was no longer concerned about him. Our investigation again turned and interviewed the killer to find out whether he had any significant contacts with the suicide bomber for al-Nusra, determined that he did not, and then the inquiry continued, focusing on the suicide bomber with no further focus on the Orlando killer.
Again, our coverage today dominated by mainly one story. We're starting with a development too for you in the Orlando shooting. It's been revealed in the last hour. Local police have just revised the number of people killed down just a little to 49, down from 50, because the initial count, it seems, included the killer. The man who's committed America's deadliest ever shooting has been identified as US citizen Omar Mateen. He pledged allegiance to Islamic State during the attack, which has become the worst act of terror in America since 9/11. The horror unfolded in the early hours of Sunday while that club was packed with around 320 people inside. Armed with an assault rifle and a handgun, the attacker barricaded himself inside, taking hostages. At one point, he came out of the building and shot at officers, who in turn fired back at him and killed him. Over the last 12 hours, Orlando police have been releasing the names of the victims. All but one have now been identified, according to the city's mayor. But what makes it even more tragic, maybe, is the amount of young people that were killed here. Of those names that have been made available so far, most were under the age of just 35. The youngest victim was only 20 years old. One man was texting his mother while hiding from the attacker in the club's bathroom, and that was the last she heard from him.
He texted me at 2:06 and said, "Mommy, I love you." In the club, they're shooting. That was at 2:06. Trapped in the bathroom, downtown. Please call police. I'm going to die. Call them, Mama, now. I asked him, was he hurt? And he said, yes. I said, well, are some of the people hurt? He said, yes. And I said, what bathroom are you in? He said, the women's bathroom. And then he said, hurry, he's in the bathroom with us.
Of course, when people realised they were in danger, they tried to notify their loved ones. Edward Sotomayor texted his partner not to come back. He'd left that club to put something in their car, it seems. In the end, he was among the 49 people killed that night. One of those who survived the horrific shooting spoke to people gathered in a church in Orlando. This is how he described what happened.
You know, it's hard for me to talk. I'm still shaking. I've been dealing with the situation this last night in the bathroom for 3 hours practically with this gun. Every time I heard a shot, I was hoping it wasn't taken away a friend of mine. That someone, you know, came in and disturbed it. And I was very surprised. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was fireworks. People thought it was the music with the popping sounds, but it became serious. And I had to play dead to survive in there.
As you can imagine, locals are devastated by events. With more from the scene, here's Marina Portnaya.
The atmosphere is very somber. Residents that I've been speaking with are still in a state of shock, utter disbelief that such violence and hatred can unfold in their city. Orlando is internationally known for Walt Disney World, a place where dreams are made, and yet now it is home to the largest, the worst U.S. shooting massacre in history. Now, we know that security has been tightened throughout several cities in the U.S., including Orlando, and there's just an active police presence pretty much anywhere you go. But we did get to speak with many people who are familiar with the venue of the gay nightclub. They have friends and family who frequent the venue. They were in utter shock about what has happened.
Well, I was just talking to my wife about it, and I told her, what are we supposed to do now? You know, we can't even go to our own safe zone that we thought it was safe zone. You know, these clubs, we would go and just kind of sit there and listen to music and just kind of be around everybody that was just like us, and nobody was going to stare at us weird or anything like that, or we weren't going to make anybody uncomfortable. And for that, it's just, you know, just shocking.
My nephew was there yesterday. He left 10 minutes before it happened. We are happy that he made it, you know, nothing happened to him, but we are sad also for the ones who have lost their lives. And we're angry because Orlando is really a nice area.
Now, echoing what a lot of those people said, while they are shocked and maybe a bit broken, there is a really strong sense of solidarity that is being shown out here on the streets of Orlando. People walking with signs showing their support for the victims and victims' families. And also there's been a GoFundMe page that was created in the aftermath of the horrific shooting. And from what is being reported, nearly $1 million has been raised in less than 8 hours for the victims and victims' families. Hopefully there will be more information coming out in the days to come, and we will keep our viewers updated as soon as we know more information about what is unfolding here on the streets of Orlando.
There's been a global outpouring of grief, solidarity and sympathy for the victims of the Orlando killings. On social networks, people are posting ribbons and rainbow flags with the hashtag "We Stand with Orlando" and "We Are Orlando." Across the US and around the world, tributes have been paid to those who lost their lives in the tragedy.